So I think what we had, I believe one of our gentlemen polled the group about some of the topics. So one of them is going to be locations. Where should I go to photograph? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about star trails as a potential approach to imaging astrophotography. Milky Way in the landscape. Again, I'm emphasizing no tracker required, no tracker required, no tracker required. We can get into tracker compositions and tracker techniques, but again, I'm trying to be beholden to my initial premise was no new equipment. So, and my guess is you have a tripod, you have a camera, you have a lens that will probably work. So don't spend a dime. We're just asking for your time and some creativity and willingness to get out in a cold, maybe spooky night condition. Have you ever had a deer snort at you, or maybe even a bear come close by? So where should I go? So what I want to show you is, and I don't think I had it pulled up in advance, but real quick, let me do this. I'm going to go to this website. Now this website is called the Clear Sky Clock, clearskyclock.com. Now, its primary use is to show you what the weather is going to be for the next 48 hours or so. So we have all kinds of indicators here about cloud cover, transparency, that's the clarity of the sky. Seeing is the steadiness of the sky. And the darkness, is there a moon up or not? As you can see here, the best conditions are all dark. Everything's good when things are dark. The squares are dark, a real dark blue. And as you can see here, we have quite a bit of moon up right now during the night. But the other part of this is, so you ask, where should I go? And we're gonna say we want a dark sky, although there are techniques that we can use anywhere, regardless of the amount of light pollution we have. This, you see this link right here, it's called Light Pollution Map. And you click on that. Now this isn't a very high resolution map. You can see here's the crosshair for Donald C. Martin Observatory, which is at Huntington High School. And you can see this area, I hope you can see my mouse. This area here is pretty much Huntington. And I believe it probably gets into Ashland, because this red up here is Columbus. This red over here is Cincinnati. So my point here is this is the Huntington-Ashland Metroplex. Now for Eastern Kentucky, I want you to look at something. Red is bad, blue is good. So what you look at here, Eastern Kentucky has very nice opportunities down. My guess is these are probably the lake area, probably around Louisa, down around Prestonsburg, or that might be Salyersville, maybe right in through there. But you have some dark skies. Look right here. This isn't too far away. That's probably over toward the forest near Moorhead, or south of Moorhead. That might be Cave Run, somewhere in that area. So those would be really nice skies over through there. Good dark skies. Now I typically go over to these black and blue areas over here. This is Spruce Knob and the Monongahela National Forest over in this area. So Clear Sky Clock gives you dark skies. Where can you go to photograph for dark skies? And you can see Eastern Kentucky is pretty good. Now you gotta worry about the security of the place where you're going. And I've been in some dicey situations. I don't do that as much anymore. So obviously it's nice if you have cell coverage. It's nice if you have a private location that the person gives you permission. I did want to use this opportunity to talk to the group. If you have a location that has abandoned farm equipment, or silos, farm buildings, farm gear, or just anything kind of in an abandoned cars out in the dark sky, I would be interested in pursuing that and checking that out to capture the Milky Way in that, and doing some light painting. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. I've got some resources for you there. I really try to go for a higher elevation when possible. It generally gets you up above fog. It generally gets you a little bit better transparency up above the aerosols that are in the atmosphere. So the higher you can get up on a ridge, generally the better. If you can stay away from bodies of water, it tends to be better. As you know, fog is going to form probably at some point throughout the night, maybe earlier than you want. And so you got heavy dew. Now, we'll tell you, if you're out all night for astrophotography, for any time you're out for photography, and you have a heavy dew that's starting to form, I always use, I didn't bring them out, but you know the hand warmers that you can get. They're, I think, what's gunpowder or just the hand warmers that you just shake and activate. Just rubber band those around your lens, and they really work well almost the entire night. But unless the body of water is in your composition, and I'll show you some examples, I tend to try to get up high in elevation and get up on a ridge. So let's start with star trails. Yeah, let the Earth rotate. Who cares? We don't need a tracker. Consider your foreground composition. Maybe it'll be conducive to light painting. Maybe it's just an object that's conducive to a silhouette. I'll show you both here in a second. Moonlight might help light the foreground. You don't want a lot of moon because that'll tend to wash out the star trails. But you know, anything from new moon up to first quarter or last quarter moon to new moon, kind of in that crescent moon phase, it's always pretty good. And get that foreground composition early with the moonlight, and you can always layer that in later. So some of the rough guidelines, you want to try for several hours of exposure. I've seen some star trails work pretty well in an hour, but try to get 2 or more. You got to watch your batteries. You got to make sure your camera really, obviously, you topped off your battery charge. You don't want to have to change a battery in the middle of this because you could. That'll increase the gap between your stars. Although we have some software that will bridge those star gaps. I know we can fake everything anymore. But make sure you try to get by with on one battery. Break your total exposure down time into sub exposures. So we're going to go into that just a little bit. Your sub exposure, maximize your ISO and exposure time to get that RGB. Make sure if your camera provides it, that you get that RGB histogram, not just the monochrome histogram. Try to get your RGB histogram at least a third of the way off that left edge. Try to make sure you're getting at least the sky exposed properly. If you have a way to show shadow highlight or clipping with your on-screen monitoring, maybe you want to use that as well. So what I'm going to show you, one of them is a light painting up at Lake Vesuvius. It's 3-minute sub exposures at ISO 640. The lens was a 14mm f2.8 Rokinon. This was 2¼ hours. And let me see here if I got that right here. So that's this image here. So what did I do? I obviously took about 5 shots of light painting the bridge here, the patio, the pergola and the dock. I just wanted that as part of the composition. In my very last exposure for the night, I caught this nice meteor coming in. So, and this was with a we had a crescent moon. It was a several-day-old moon, and it helped light some of the bank on the other side, so it doesn't look totally black. And you get some nice trailing in the water's edge. And then, of course, this is about 2¼ hours. That's what you can expect on a 14mm lens on a full frame camera. This is with the Canon RP, I believe is what I had at the time. I hear some noises, Pam. I'm not sure if people are trying to get my attention with anything. I hear.
No, what's happening is people are signing on and off.
Okay. Okay.
But I do have a couple questions for you.
Oh, yes.
Okay. How do you get beyond the intimidation of shooting at night?
It's a factor. I don't disagree with that. Yeah, it can be spooky. I mean, even at a location like this, you know, you're not that far remote. I think I still had cell coverage here at Lake Vesuvius, but it is, you know, you just have to go with the odds. You're going to be fine. there's no, I mean, obviously the situation where you don't have, I don't take a whole lot of precautions. I don't carry a gun. Um, don't use that against me. Don't come after me. But you know, just have all the safety precautions you would need if you were happen to be stranded, especially in you know, inclement weather or colder conditions. Make sure you can stay warm. Make sure you have all those provisions. If you're really out in a remote area, obviously have your car filled with gas. But as far as being out and about, I tell you, again, like this night, I knew there was a beaver. I could hear the beaver gnawing on a tree. It sounded like it was literally 2 feet away, but I know it was over on that bank. That's the thing. These sounds at night, they carry very efficiently through that damp air. And so I had to get out. And I still remember that. So I'm like, what the heck is that noise? And I kind of pieced it together, and I showed my light over there. I'm like, I want to make sure that where this is going.
Yeah.
But just be confident. Obviously, if we can partner up and get a couple people out together, that's by far the best thing to do, is partner up with somebody, get out to the dark sky, or just get out and break it down into chunks. Say, you know what, I'm not really ready to spend an hour or 2 hours out here, but maybe I'll go out and spend 15 minutes and find something easy that doesn't feel so remote. Just work your way into it slowly. Don't feel like you have to get into some remote, dark environment that you just don't feel safe in. But yeah, you don't really ever get over it, but it gets better and you get more confident. Just be safe. Obviously, now I tell you one thing I do see people do, and some advocate for it. Now, a lot of people will still use a white light all night. And for astronomers, we are big on using red lights. Now, if you don't know, there's a reason for that. Of course, the eye, the pupil doesn't constrict as much under a red light, and the eye remains more sensitive to dark conditions. Now, you'd be surprised how light it is when your eye dark adapts properly. So that might help some of the anxiety that you have. Is try to minimize the amount of white light that you use in your car before you get out, because when you're in a car and you get out into a dark environment, everything looks black. Your eyes, you've been looking at that dashboard light, you've been looking at your headlights, you're like, man, I can't see a thing. You give your eyes 10, 15 minutes to adapt to that, and you'll be surprised how much you can see. That might eliminate some of the anxiety. Is consider the lighting that you're using. And I encourage you to get a red light. That way you're not ruining your night sky adaptation. And that might help eliminate some of the anxiety as well.
Okay.